meeting of the Town of New Paltz Planning Board. We'll go through the agenda, but I will make some modifications as we go through it. First up is review and approval of the minutes of April 8th, 2013. Any additional comments on the minutes? Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
One extension.
One, and Lyle abstains. The section now is a public comment. This is an area where people can comment on just about anything. I don't think we're restricted on it, other than anything that's on the public hearing. So does anybody have any general public comments? Hearing none, I'll move on. I would like to, as I said, skip around. I'd like to jump to old business and an extension request. And Bill, you want to come up and have a discussion with the board? All right, so last time we met, we came up with a conclusion. We were looking for a schedule of when you would get some of these things done, at least in the time frame that we have an understanding that the project is still viable and that you have some ballpark figures of where you're going with it. So what we're looking for is kind of a general schedule of what you intend to do and where. So
after speaking with you today, I mean, I threw this together. Hopefully it's going to be even quicker, especially like on the sign. I wrote July for 2000 just to give me some leeway, but I'm already working on it. I mean, I just printed this out to show you that I met with Sign Language. He's given me a bunch of ideas, and we got to get back for a second and third. But I wrote July, but it's going to be sooner than that. But I just wanted to, in speaking with you, have a little leeway there. So I don't want to say June and it doesn't get done by June. So
well, again,
I know.
We just wanted to see what it's.
And also since we met, I'm starting moving on some of the facade stuff. I have the front glass work. I just got the estimate on that from County Glass. So I'm moving along. I put some dates down there for you so you'd have something. I don't know. Take a look at them, see what you think.
I'll just read them off. He's working on this. He talked about working on replacing the sign in July of 2013. Get the facade of the building done by the fall, October. Interior of the building is a winter project and be completed by over the winter and finished up by March. Parking lot modifications on the parking lot as shown on the site plan by October 2013. So we're going to stick with the plan that you have approved.
Yeah, right.
So anything that's on that's not on that plan, you're going to remove from the site.
Right.
Okay. Board have any?
Yeah, where are you with the building inspector?
We've got to get together. I mean, she's going to have to come over one time and we just walk around the property. And I mean, the shed is that's the big issue. I got to talk to her about that. I got down the banners that were out there, cleaned up the sides. Then one other issue she had was the cooler outside the taco shack. She said that wasn't on the site plan. It is on the site plan that we get, and that's been up there 11 years. I don't know what site plan she's referring to. The one that I gave you for this project, that certainly is on the site plan.
You may not
Just have to
been
change
on
the dates.
Yeah, I didn't. That's the one. I didn't know where that was coming from. But
so, do you have any? Because she probably gave you a time frame to.
No, I spoke with her on the phone, and we just, I said, we're gonna wrap this. I'm gonna get all this stuff done, and just work with me, That's it. We left it at that, But
all right, we'll keep. We'll let Stacy ride herd on you.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on this.
Violations.
I gave myself some extra room on that.
And
but I mean, the sign should be up, well before July. But it's I just threw that date there and same with the facade. That's pretty.
Can we move
easy.
the facade up? October is a long time away for the facade. You know, that's
Yeah.
kind of, that's what's important to the town is,
Right.
you know, the way something looks, and
Right.
it's the whole summer, and it's coming into fall. and-
Right.
And, you know, it could help a lot in, you know, in the community. The interior is is more of your
Right.
private domain as opposed to public domain.
Right,
So it would be really good if you, because that's a long time away at this point.
yeah. All right.
You know, can you move that up, I think?
Well, you said you got
Yeah.
something from him, or
Yeah,
already
I-
talking with him on that?
I'm moving on that now, actually. I mean, so, I just wrote this, about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I spoke with him on the phone.
To talk to him.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good, because I'm cranky when these kind of things come up. So can we look at
Yeah.
August for the facade? Instead of October, since we're just making up times anyway? And then you'll come back if you're
Yeah,
not meeting your
yeah,
schedule?
that's fair. yeah.
Right?
So he'll
That's
come
fair.
back for a extension.
Or come back, well, he's gonna have
Yeah.
to come back for extensions anyway, correct?
Yeah, they're all 90-day extensions, so we'll be,
Yeah, so we're
Yeah,
right now,
that-
we're
that's fair.
April, May, June, July. So in July, we'll see where you're at, and hopefully you've
Sure.
already started your facade.
Yeah.
And that we don't have to even wait till August or
Right.
September.
Like I said, I just threw that on just to put a date in there, really. But yeah, that's fair.
Because this has been hanging out a long time, hasn't it?
Sure has, yeah.
Yeah.
You can always come back early and tell us.
You're
Yeah.
finished, that'd be great.
You'll know
That'd
if
be
it's
great.
going.
Well, we'll know.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
Okay.
know when we're stopping in.
That's fair.
Not that I stop in and get beer.
oh, I do.
I'm kidding, yeah.
That's one of the first questions I asked is, we're not going to
Yeah.
impact the operation of the business while we're doing this modification.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? I'm going to change this to
That's fine.
August. I'm going to have you sign it.
Yeah. You got it.
And the parking lot will be coincident with the facade? I mean, October, if you miss some months, then you start getting into cold weather, then sometimes resurfacing, right, Dave, becomes problematic. So I would like to see that the latest that is done is September, just, because if you say October and you miss a month, then November could be cold, and then... So
Put whatever
does
you
that-
want me to put down.
Well,
What
does
about
that-
you?
well, I'd like it to be realistic. I'm
Yeah.
not just trying to,
So what's 1 month?
strong
September,
arm you.
October? Is it-
Yeah, I'm not trying to strong arm you, but if we can get it moving, that would be great. You had it the same as the facade anyway, so that's what I was thinking.
Right. Well,
if-
October's
if that
still
works.
total paving time.
It is, but if you're, for some reason, get behind schedule, this hasn't been that quick in happening, so
Right.
assuming that you were off by a month, if we move it to September instead, and you kind of are on that schedule, then maybe that,
On September there?
Yep.
sure, do you mind? That'd be great. Then for fall, everybody's gonna be pulling in there, it'll be awesome.
There you go. Thank
It'll
you.
look good, and,
Okay, so we have a motion to grant the 90-day extension to K&E beverage site plan changes based
I
on
make a
the...
motion.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Lyle. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay,
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
so 90 days, we're in April, right? So it's May, June, July. So sometime in July, when you, depending on where you are on it, I will probably need an update and closer in on some of those dates on it.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
we'll follow.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bill, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a public hearing on Valamas, 143 South Ohioville subdivision, lot line revision. I have a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Eileen. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All those in favor? I don't see them jumping up. Is anybody here to talk about the lot line revision, belongs to lot line revision?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'd like to actually...
Could you say your name and...
My name is Tom Ankrew. I'm the landowner right next to Leo, and I'd like to know what's going on.
I also would like to know what's going on too, I'm his neighbor as well.
Okay.
So I can do it.
Now you gotta, well,
You don't have a board, I guess, to put it up on?
yeah, but
Easel
then
or something?
everybody's, then it's all behind us and they
No,
can't
I
see it
thought maybe
anyway.
we had a
Come up and take a
freestanding
look,
board.
Joe, Lynn,
Yeah.
Tom? Tom owns this property here. He's actually part
You
of
in the
the...
back? Behind him? My name is Joe. I'm in the front. Big brick house.
Like Burke, yes.
Yeah,
Porpilius, is you Porpilius?
yeah. That was my grandmother's house.
Okay. Patty, go ahead and explain where you're at.
Absolutely. Mr. Vlamis owns an 12-acre parcel of land with frontage on South Ohioville Road. His blacktop driveway going back to his house is located on South Ohioville Road. The property extends back to Olive Lane, and he is working with Mr. Ankru to do a lot line revision so that Olive Lane can be extended approximately another 200 feet to access a proposed single-family dwelling for Mr. Vlamis's daughter. The new lot will be 1.98 acres in size. It has been reviewed by the highway superintendent for the proposed roadway extension. The new town road specifications call for a wider roadway. The highway superintendent has allowed us to go with the existing specifications that Olive Lane currently is built to. So we won't be going from a 20-foot wide road to a freeway at the end.
Circle turnaround.
That's the only difference is the width.
Correct.
Right.
The bed, everything. will
Right,
be-
the construction will be in accordance with town
Over here.
specifications.
Oh, okay. Did we see this about 3
You're
months
in the
ago?
back.
Yeah, this is the
Yeah,
same one.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it looks good. It's just for the one lot and that's it.
Yes.
Okay.
The property to the, let's see, the east?
To the west.
You're taking right-of-way there as well?
Mr. Ankru's property?
I don't know, whatever this one is.
Yeah.
They're purchasing land from him to
Okay.
build the roadway.
Okay, that's what that is,
Yep.
okay. I was gonna ask if they had been notified, that's you.
Yes, that
Okay,
is, yep,
gotcha. And then, so the bulb will spin to the lot that's being created.
yes.
Okay, a couple questions I gotta ask you. I see over here, we're taking the tree down.
Yes,
Okay, we're all approved on that by the town?
Yeah.
It's in the middle of the roadway, it looks like.
yeah,
Okay.
it has to, the highway superintendent requested
Yeah.
it, the engineer reviewed it and approved it.
All right, did I, did I approve it?
Oh, I thought that Sue from my office had a conversation with you and you said you
Well,
were
yes.
planning on taking it
We were
down.
talking about this tree on the right-hand side, not the tree on the left-hand side. Originally, we thought we were gonna put the roadway here, and the road has come through here, and this tree right here, this oak tree here, was gonna come down, okay? Now, that's number one. Okay, number two, I see a pole here, as we move to the left,
Right.
and this person right here is gonna be, now where's this pole gonna end up?
Well, it still will be within the road right-of-way,
Okay,
not on his property.
okay. Well, that's his business there, so I just wanna make sure. So this pole here, what's gonna happen to this pole here? It's gonna stay?
That will stay, that will remain.
Okay, my other question is, we have underground wire going from this pole underneath this road, along this way here, and I got apartment complex, or not complex, 2 apartments here, which is cable runs underneath here. So what's gonna happen to this line that goes underneath the road here? Is there anybody talked about that?
Well, the line will still stay there.
Okay, but my worry is how far are we gonna dig down into the road? What's the specs on there? Another thing is these stumps here, will they be pulled out? I'm doing a lot of questions in front of this board here.
Right,
And I
yeah,
want to know
and-
the answers before this. And my biggest question is, this cul-de-sac here, what happens to my driveway?
You see the driveway, it's represented right there. You're asking the board who's reviewing an application, so we
Right.
don't have the answers. The
Okay.
surveyor
Right.
here is
Okay.
gonna be
Well-
answering them, so we're all hearing the answers at the same time as you are.
So those are my loaded questions that
Yeah.
I need to answer, because if this is going to be a dead end here,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what's going to happen to the rest of my property here in case I want to sell this at one time, which are my
Right.
plans, and this dead ends here,
Yep.
is there any reason why someone can't put a couple houses back here?
The reason that somebody can't put a couple of houses back there really has more to do with the topography and the wetlands on the property than it has to do with the dead-end roadway.
Okay.
We did not put a note on here saying that there was to be no further subdivision of the lands. Mr. Valamis's property could be no further subdivided, but you and I had the discussion, and you
Right.
said you were not willing to sign off on no further subdivision.
Right.
We did discuss with the board, on your property here, there's a federal wetland. The property is very narrow. It has the Central Hudson right away on it.
Correct.
And it already has, 6 units on it?
4.
4 units on, I thought there were 4 and 2.
No.
2 family,
and 2.
2 family? So I don't know that, what the extent of future subdivision of that property is. I can tell you that based on the zone that it's in and the ecological constraints you have on the property, it would be significantly limited.
Okay.
But again, the board is not putting a restriction of no further subdivision.
Okay.
So with regard to the other questions, so have you not been having conference, because I wish that we would have had the opportunity, that you would have
Well,
called
I
me
did
to.
call your office 2 or 3 times. I did talk to somebody
and
there.
and I've spoken to
And
you.
the first time, right.
I thought I
Right.
had answered all your questions,
Right.
but have you discussed these things with Mr. Vlamas too? I mean, this
No.
is part of your
No, this
deal
is,
with him.
what he told me is to deal with everything with your office.
Okay.
You know, because I guess you're helping him out here.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, but I
So-
just wish that I knew these questions
Right.
before coming to
Well,
a public hearing.
The other thing is there's another map that came out, which I wasn't aware of recently. There's an updated map or something.
This is the updated
Okay.
map?
I've seen another map the other day
There's
that we
another
picked up from
map that
here.
has the road engineering on it,
Okay.
the grading and the drainage.
Okay,
It's the details.
The details, yeah.
okay. But these are all the questions I need to know, because what I'm worried about here, my plans are do no building on this myself, okay? I'm looking toward the future. This is my retirement, okay? So I want to know if I ever want to sell this piece of property, if by putting a dead-end road here, okay, the value of the property may go down, because years ago, I guess this piece of property was in front of the planning board, I'm talking about 20-some years ago, maybe more, my father had it, that there was proposed 4 houses going back there. You may be familiar with it, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole story, I'm sure you do. Maybe you can tell me, I'll be happy to hear it from you. But I'm saying, yeah, I mean, if there's room for any kind of development, if I want to sell it one day,
Right, to answer your question though, right now, you are on a dead-end road. Right now, not only are you on a dead-end road,
stuck.
but you don't have any frontage.
Right.
And so
But they-
by this road being constructed,
frontage.
you actually will have street frontage on a town road and a proper turnaround for fire trucks, which right now you don't have. So quite frankly, it makes your property, in my estimation, I'm not a real estate broker or a, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. But to me, it makes your property more valuable because now you're gonna own road frontage and you're gonna have proper access to your
I
four
agree.
families that you don't have right now.
I agree with you 100%. And this is one of the reasons I agree with Leo. I'm willing to give up a piece of property to get this frontage here. I have no problem with this. My biggest concern is, in the future, I'm not saying 5 years from now, maybe 10 years ago, maybe my daughter wants to build a house here one day. Just like Louie's daughter wants to put a house here. I might, give the land over to my daughter. She may want to build a house right here and maybe keep these still as income to pay for the mortgage. I mean, these are things I'm just thinking about for the
Right,
future.
but that's not the application before us.
Well, I understand that.
So we
and that doesn't
can't
prevent
even,
that
yeah, it doesn't mean you
application.
can't come
Okay, I
in,
just
but we
want-
can't look at that piece of property
Right.
without looking at all the whole site and give you any kind of idea, and that's not what's before the board tonight anyway.
Okay.
So your future look at that would require, a concept before the planning board at minimum to get an exploration, but I think the surveyor is probably accurate in her advice to you in terms of the road frontage and the fact
Right.
that you now have access, and if you have a federal wetlands on that, you've got a bunch of things that are
I
working
understand.
on that property, so I think
Right.
that's about as good as we can do.
But I don't want this road to be a dead end and in the future that no one can ever build anything on there.
It's,
You
the
know.
road terminates
Yeah.
for the property designed. There's no limitation, there are limitations on how far we go for dead-end roads. But that's the 750-foot cul-de-sac type of thing, and I don't think we're near that distance on this road yet.
Right, but quite frankly, then, if hypothetically, if that road was extended, you're gonna have to get this gentleman to sign off on it, unless you're gonna put it all on your road, which would then bump it up against your house, so that's not gonna happen. So that looks like that's probably where that's gonna end, just short of it going onto your property, and then you paying for the road improvement costs for the road.
Right, to create,
I mean, I think that's a fair, a fair guess, let's put it
Okay.
that way.
You know, I have no problem with what's going on here. I mean, benefits me, benefits Leo. I've had no problem with this. I mean, plan looks good. I mean, the tree over there, okay, I thought this tree would come down, but if that's the tree's gotta come down, that's fine. Because this one over here, there's more dead limbs on it than this one here. That's that's right. I
Yeah.
talked to, I think I talked to you or talked to you
Yep,
in the
yep,
office here.
absolutely.
But the cul-de-sac, now I have a small parking area here, which I'll have to move. Now, is this tree come down? That's gonna be for the pavement.
That's
That maple tree.
outside the pavement. It's within the right-of-way, the road right-of-way, within
Okay.
the highway bounds, but that does not have to come down.
So it's actually, okay, so that's
Those
the
are
shoulder of
staying.
the road then?
Yes.
Okay. But then,
And actually, where your parking area is
Mm-hmm.
right now, part of it will be within the 50-foot right-of-way, but that doesn't have to move. That's not being impacted by the roadway.
okay, so my tenants can still park there, in other words, coming off?
Yep.
Okay. And there's enough room for the snowplow to come in there, make the U-turn?
There'll be
and-
Why,
more.
go to the
Okay.
highway superintendent to make sure that he
Yeah.
has enough room in there to
Okay.
do what he has to do.
No, but my biggest concern was, and it's not in front of the board now, but my concern is I don't want, in the future, if any kind of development, I'm not saying it will happen, hopefully someone will buy it and just put a horse farm up there, be the best thing. You know, that's what I like to see. But I don't know what's gonna happen in 10 years,
Yeah.
you know? I'd like to retire soon and then maybe move down south. So my concerns on in the future, what's going on in this property, that's my
Thank you,
that's my
Patty.
concern.
Bye, Len. Bye, Joe.
Other than this, that was my only concern about. This is fine. I mean, it benefits me, benefits Louis. I mean, like, I have a nice driveway. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you know, that's all good with me. And my biggest concern was future right away, you know. And I can just, my drive would continue right off this cul-de-sac here.
Yes.
I mean, it'll have to be kind of beveled off, you know. I mean,
Well, I would imagine, and I don't have the plans in front of me right now, but I would certainly make sure that in your discussions with Mr. Vlamas, that that's part of the deal, so to speak,
Yeah.
that obviously your driveway needs to be graded such that it continues to have adequate access. I don't think that the highway superintendent or the town engineer would sign off on it if it created an unsafe situation
Right.
for access to your
What
Yes.
about the underground electric though? Because we don't know how deep it is,
right.
whether it's in a conduit, whether it's in a.
I don't think it's in a conduit. My brother actually put it in, I don't know how many years ago, and actually when that house, this part right here was built back in 71, 72.
Do you have your own transformer or it's?
There is a transformer on this,
this pad.
no,
It's a transformer
Nope.
pad, isn't it?
no, that's the dumpster there.
Oh.
There's a transformer on this pole here.
So,
I think it's transformed around a big brown cylinder heading on there. There's a transformer there.
At any point, does your utility line cross this proposed right-of-way?
Yes, he's saying
Yeah.
it crosses right there, goes
Right.
across
Should
to
that
the
be
other
noted on
side.
the plan
Because
then,
you're gonna have to
Patty?
show it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Gonna
get
have to-
somebody to,
Mark it.
you know, if you can, is there a way that you can mark it out? Because UFPO will not mark private utilities. Do you have a plan of where it was
Oh,
put in?
No. I mean, back in 71, 72, I assumed this was had to be Underwriters or wherever Central Hudson. I know that the conduit going out the pole is on this side. And I talked to my brother the other day, and he remembers digging a trench here, and it crosses over, and we're not exactly sure how it comes alongside the house. I don't know if it comes on the back side or on the front side, goes along there. But the meter is in the back of this apartment's here.
there are numerous private marked out,
Yes,
like Protec or somebody like
Yeah.
that. will come
Premier
mark out.
Protec. we
Yeah,
prefer-
I don't know how deep it is. I don't know if it's conduit. I can't. I just want, you know, in case someone does start digging,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
You know,
a gas line, electric line.
We have to have it marked before we dig.
And again, I would almost think that at this point, because the town's gonna take title to that portion of the roadway, I'm almost wondering if at this point, it might not be a requirement that it be
Just move it back.
relocated to
Why
the
would you cross
westerly
the road?
side.
It would be a very good idea, because the guy who would be digging it up would be the town highway superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
and he would not be
Doesn't wanna
happy
be
if he has
doing
to
that.
look for it.
Mm-hmm.
So all things considered, I think it would be a better thing if you
Come off,
figure out how to make that happen.
come off the pole and then come in
Just- Yeah.
with a
Well,
new.
Deactivate it
there's
type
another
thing.
problem there, because if you're coming across this way, we got a well here with lines going to the house here. Okay? And so, you know, we don't know how deep those lines are from 1920.
Probably not too
Right.
deep.
Right. I mean, the well there, I mean, I would say it's only like maybe 5 feet. Because picking shovel was pretty tough back then. So, I mean, I have no problem. I mean, if they can find where this line runs through, and otherwise you had to dig here across. I mean, dig here, you had to dig my lawn up and everything, go across there. And then you have to go underneath the driveway here to come over there. So you're better off leaving and just going slow and try digging it up. I'm sure it's just gonna go right across here and then it runs along this little ditch here. and goes up and down.
Yeah, but it would
wind
go-
up being under a paved road.
Yeah, it
George,
can't
whose
be.
responsibility
Because
is
if you
that?
ever
That's
had
not
to
the town's
repair it or had
responsibility,
problems
right?
with it, they'd be
That's
digging
not
up
gonna
the
be the
whole
town's
town road.
responsibility to find the line
No,
and
no,
relocate
absolutely
it. So
not.
how do we, right,
It would be the applicant's responsibility.
okay.
You may want, rather than go
Yeah.
underground, if you could drop a pole there and run overhead and then pick up your ditch.
Oh, from
Yeah.
here.
Talking
Just-
about a subdivision with overhead lines? Do we do that?
This is all private. It's on his own property. That's what I'm thinking. That's all, that's
Might be-
that's
But
all
that's something
overhead
that they
now.
have to work out,
A
then
pole?
is that our business?
No,
Well, only if it's crossing the town right away.
Right,
It is, so it just has to be addressed in our resolution, I guess?
Well, if there's an existing line within a proposed right of way, the best thing to do would be to remove it because it's gonna be paved over at some point if there's need to
Yeah,
replace
it's
it.
gone.
So
yeah.
it's gotta get, dig it up. And
Yeah.
that would require an easement from the town to let it remain there. This is the time when it's best to make a rational choice, put it outside the right of way.
relocate it outside the proposed roadway extension construction area, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it could be within the 50-foot right-of-way, the other utilities are.
Where is the
Just couldn't
phone
be.
line or cable? Where does that run?
I'm gonna say the cable runs right alongside. There's power there.
It's all in the same,
Yeah,
Trench, you think?
I think so.
Well, cable hasn't
but
been
from
in that
71,
long.
no, it couldn't have
Right.
been.
I'm gonna say they ran alongside there. I haven't seen nothing in the lawn in this area here. It may run along here, I'm not sure. I guess, yeah. it
Right, that
comes
had
off
to be
the
done
pole.
like in the 90s, right? We haven't had cable that long.
Cable's not that, yeah. It's not 80s. No way.
no, yeah, it's
It's
80s.
90s. Cable? No way.
80.
I'll make you have that.
80.
Yeah, back when, remember, I lived in that neighborhood, so I,
Oh, maybe I won't bet you. Betting at a public
Yeah,
meeting,
two
I'm probably not
Karen Corn.
allowed.
The greenhouse. Well, I don't know what color it is
Yeah.
now.
Finn's house?
Really?
Yeah, right on the corner.
Let's see.
The Cape, the only Cape you got, well, they're all Rest of Ray's ranches.
Original owner was Finn.
Yeah, I bought it from Finn
Didn't-
in '74.
Okay, well,
The house was built in 70, I thought it was
69?
69? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, anything moved away that fast. Him and Sign were our partners. First house on the right coming up, big greenhouse, that was the first house built there, 68. And they worked at the same,
No, I thought he was saying.
I think,
Yeah,
some
I
chicken
still-
farm,
we've
they
had
they
it.
tested for chicken.
Yeah.
They grew them up with them.
Putting all the
I bought it,
utilities out.
moved in
That way
'74
you have
and.
good contact.
It's
moved
gray
out
now.
in '91.
It just makes sense.
Right.
So I know,
No,
you know,
agree
a lot of the
100%.
people that I knew were still there, so.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it crosses the
You got
road
the
and it goes along the
Tortorellas, the
driveway.
Whalens. I'm
it
surprised
goes right
Whalens,
through the widest
yeah.
part of
not
the
too many people
Even
there.
if it didn't cross the road, if it's under the road and
Right.
something happens,
Well,
then
that's-
whose responsibility is it? The person, the problem that is, they dig up the road and then they're gonna pave it again for the
Right,
town?
and the widest part of, it would be going through the widest part of the cul-de-sac, it just
It's
doesn't
not-
make sense.
Doesn't make any
It's gotta be
sense. Just
relocated.
cut it and leave it take it from the pole and rerun it.
All right, so
Yeah, so
we have an issue on
Mhm.
that we have to resolve
Yeah.
Yep,
and take a look at, walk it out, where it's gonna go. We wanna make sure, at least from the road extension point of view and the highway, that we're not gonna infringe on it, that he still has access to it at all times on it. So what we need to,
So I thought, yeah.
How does Louis plan to put electric in his house? Above with another pole there, or is he planning to go underground?
I don't know, I did not discuss it with him.
It's something we can talk about.
you want a tracking sheet for it? I didn't write it for this.
Well, it seems like we're making some.
looks like we're.
No, the pole,
All right, let me.
this pole
Keep
would be
moving here.
located on this side of the road. If instead of putting a pole over here,
That'll be up to Central Hudson to
Right.
decide where they want it relocated to.
well, if they can put the pole on this side, swing it across the road, then you can drop the line over here and continue on here. Instead of pulling it underground all the way through here, if you just walk the pole to this side of the road, okay, which is, I don't think any problem, would be, right still in town or access there, 25 feet in, right?
Right, but then you still have the issue of how you get back to here, because we can't leave it along the edge of that driveway.
That's it,
It'll be
you gotta
right
go
through the
underneath
middle.
there. Okay,
It'll be
I understand
Right
that.
through the middle of
Okay.
that cul-de-sac,
Okay.
yeah.
So we gotta go over. Right.
There's a guy wire in that tree that's
Yes.
coming down too,
Yeah.
like making it complicated.
You noticed that, huh? I seen that the other day. Oh, this is way too much. And then
Okay.
They're gonna dig out the stump and everything, the big tree.
Yeah, yeah.
Patty, will you be revising the map to make notes and then, or relocate? Okay, so
Yeah.
you'll be back.
Yeah, I
Okay.
will be back. I will be back.
I just, a few questions I have to ask. I mean, I
Oh, that's all
wasn't, you
right,
know,
that's what
you know,
that's what we have public hearings for.
And I think the best thing to happen would be for you and me and Leo to sit down and iron these things
Okay.
out so that, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
so that I'm clear and that
Right.
I have it from both of you.
Okay.
That this is what you agree to, both of
Okay.
you.
I mean, this, I have no problem. This, I see your point where I got road frontage in front of my place, which is a big plus to me.
Yep.
So, I mean, I appreciate that, so, yeah. All this, I was just concerned about future for myself, you know, for pending sale or anything.
Yeah,
and-
there's nothing that on this application that impacts or limits you from coming forward with a application. But we'll write this up. You can
Yep.
check on it.
Maybe 301.
Anything, any other
No,
issues?
no, that's it.
Concerns?
Yeah, we're good now. So, yeah, we'll sit down, you, me and Leo will sit down, we'll discuss the rest of this. And
Yeah.
I just started thinking, not right away with thoughts, but then later, I
Yeah.
heard we get on the road, and I'm talking about what's going on later on, you know, so.
Yep.
Good?
Okay. Okay, any other comments on the public hearing? Maybe we should keep it open till the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to the May. Someday I'll remember. 13. She puts it in the folder. Is it 13? Okay. I'll take Peter's word on it, but I'll verify. May 13th.
Yeah, that sounds right. Second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
I'm sorry, 13?
13.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Came back to the agenda. Lerner, two-lot subdivision.
Good evening.
Yeah,
My name is Michael Viteri. I'm the land surveyor for this proposal.
okay. All right, good. Let's go through it and then Dave, you want to go through the review from your office on this?
We looked at the map that was presented. The one thing that we were interested in was getting the notes on the original subdivision that had some restrictions. Kelly sent those over today. I'd like to repeat the notes that apply to this
These are
particular
the notes
lot,
he's
taking.
the subdivision map.
I'm gonna show these guys the map, if you don't mind.
Need to cite the house along with the
Okay.
driveway. We're going, before it's over, we need to have a septic approval on the lot too.
Okay.
well and septic location.
Problem with a site this big is that I'm not sure where a prospective buyer would place the house. Are we limiting them to a specific site this way? I mean, it's quite a large lot.
I think there's some limits here with the restrictions, not a lot. There's some trees that can't be cut along the borders.
Mostly an open field that's been overgrown over the years at this point. Yeah, you can see by the aerial here that it's actually an overgrown field at this point. There are no trees of any substance there. There's no large trees. And just on the property lines.
Looks like
Most of the other fields that are shown in this aerial here were brush hogged. It looks to me that this hasn't been brush hogged in 5 or 6 years, and it's kind of overgrown.
I know I remember the discussion on this when the original subdivision was approved, and there were some areas where there were some, at that time they thought they were pretty significant trees. I'm just looking at the aerial here. The shadows look like there's some pretty good sized trees along the edges there.
Yeah, along the edges, yeah.
We need to show those tree lines. We need to show
Okay.
any of the trees that are going to be in the potential development area that might come down, in case we can make some changes and avoid that. And we will need some notes on the plans as far as soil erosion measures that'll be undertaken when the house and septic construction takes place.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
We'll need some erosion and sediment control notes. Need some kind of topographic data on this for siting the house to make sure that the driveways are, I'm not sure how flat this is or how steep it is at this point.
It slopes to the rear less than 10%. You want a USGS like topo, or that's what we had on the original 03 subdivision?
USGS would be okay, and when you get to the point that you know where the development's gonna go and the drive is gonna go, I'd like to have some shots in there. Don't have to topo the whole thing, but the part that's gonna be developed, we need a little more than the USGS. I think your 20-foot
I'll have to,
contours there.
like I said, I'm not sure where the house would be sited. We can pick a spot that looks probably the best, but
And I'd consider the terrain and the trees and everything else, you know, pick a spot that makes sense. Like a copy of the deed, see what the covenant and deed restrictions might be. There's waiver requests for anything that is required on the subdivision map that don't make sense for this particular subdivision. I'd look through the code and see what waivers you'd like on that. There's also 12117B1 that has specific improvements that are required. Any of those that are not going to be installed with a subdivision, we need a written waiver request on that.
This is all on the report, I think Michael just handed you.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so just so you know, he's reciting his report,
All right.
so.
Looks like the Stony Kill kind of comes up into the property
Number
too
7
from
on
a
now.
GIS map that we have. We'd like to have that shown. Any other features that are natural features, existing conditions on the property, site distance measurements at the driveway.
I asked the town highway superintendent to review this, but he said typically they don't review unless there's a site plan involved. The drive cut? I asked them, you know, to give me an approval, but,
Pick the driveway location and then give the site distance measurements
Okay.
on that, and I'll talk to the highway superintendent.
good enough. Is that on here too?
Now, that's number 8 there.
Yep.
I was curious, it looks like there's a nice old stone wall there. And I think I know the answer to this, but that's a natural landmark.
Yeah. It would appear that it would probably be the best location for the property lines, but the owners would like to keep a buffer between their existing home and what they intend to sell in the future.
I expected that is the answer. So that's basically it. I'd look at the subdivision code, that's section 121, and see everything that's required on the subdivision map. Anything that just doesn't make sense for this particular subdivision, ask for a waiver on that. Support the reasoning behind that waiver.
Do we know that the property perks? I mean, isn't that predicated
to.
on before we even subdivide that the property actually can perk?
He has to
I'm
have a health
assuming.
department
Okay.
approval on this before
Yeah, okay.
the
So-
town board,
so
planning
then
board.
that'll
can
maybe
approve the
at least give you an idea of where the location, you know, if it's, the house is gonna be in approximate area and stuff. And then the driveway, yeah.
Here is the covenants that came
Yeah, I
off
have
the.
them. I
you
did
have
the
those?
original
That's attached.
subdivision too.
Okay, so you know,
Yeah,
It's attached to Dave's memo too.
yeah,
right?
but it was,
Yeah.
this is bigger.
Yeah, okay.
Board have any
We need a letter of agency, right?
letter of agency on that too? That you're gonna represent, that they signed off?
yeah,
on?
I think I submitted that.
Did they?
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Anything else?
Dave, when they're picking a driveway location, do they normally, do you allow them to try to line it up with across the street so they're coming in, or it doesn't matter really?
It's always best to not have the drive shooting in somebody's
It's
window,
different.
basically. If you
Yeah.
can line them up, it's best.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a
Yeah.
little offset there between the parcel across the street. They're offset by maybe 60, 70 feet.
But you have a couple, also, oh no, you don't, you have two pieces, three. Potential,
Yeah. This is
Oh,
probably
I'm
the best
sorry, yeah,
spot
yeah.
for the site distance that I had shown on there.
yeah, because there is a little bump in the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bump right there.
Okay.
It
Last,
makes some sense to just put no further subdivision on the subdivision plan, since
Yeah.
it really can't be subdivided
Right.
again.
This is a county road, Albany Post Street. County
Yeah.
road and ag district.
is it an ag district?
Farms
I
all
think so,
around.
because isn't the winery is just down the street, and wasn't that the part of the discussion on that one? The Wines House on the corner of 299 and
Yeah, I
Albany
know where you
Post,
are.
isn't
I know,
that
right.
ag district?
But that's
And then this
only
is,
500
this
feet?
is
That
then,
one is not in the ag district. Johnson's property, which abuts it, is
okay, so this is
This
beyond,
way above.
this is, keeps coming towards Gardner side.
Yeah,
On the same side though as,
if you're within 500 feet, you need
that's
to-
what I'm getting at, is
Okay.
500 feet.
You need to do the agricultural data statement. So I will send it to Kelly so she can send it on.
could be, yeah.
Okay, we'll put an ag statement in it.
Town getting in a lot of trouble out there.
Well, what does it mean where it says here, it says A 1.5 zoning district?
That's just
Acre and a half.
acre and a half.
Okay.
But there are specific agricultural districts marked in the town, and if you're within 500 feet of it, you have to get an ag statement for it. But it's scattered around the town, so
Sure, this is
different areas would have it. You just have to know where the farms are and then ask, well, is that in the ag district, and are you close enough to get a statement to that effect?
And the statement is what? Actually, what does the statement say?
It's notice to the property owners who are in an ag district or conducting an agricultural operation that a proposed development is within 500 feet. And it provides notice to the property owner in the subdivided parcel
That they're
New
within?
York
Okay,
wants
protects.
to, it's got the right to farm.
Right, okay, so that they may end up smelling animals and,
Yes.
yes, all of that, and so
All of
be
those.
aware. Okay, that's what I assumed, yeah.
Welcome to the country.
Great, okay, yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and
That's a good thing.
we have R1s and A1.5 and, you know, A3, just the zoning designation.
David, can I ask you, on that item number 7, could you clarify that for me, please? That the Stony Kill there? That it should be included.
We looked at a GIS map. I don't have that with me. It looks like the Stony Kill comes up and hooks into that property.
Is it in the back of the property, back here?
Yeah. Just show whatever natural features are there and
On this, you said the westerly end over in here?
Dave, do you want to come out? Oh, you have it. Okay. No problem. Southeast. Yeah, southeast. East.
something that came up into this law.
Oh, up in there.
Right. It was shown over here.
Oh, I see, yeah.
I think that showed
Yeah,
up on.
yeah, yeah, okay. that's-
I've walked that whole stone wall line there. I never saw any evidence of that.
Hmm.
What, this way?
Coming
No,
in here.
just drove by it.
Unless it's
This house you
seasonal.
can hardly see.
Right.
Because it starts,
see it
because
now.
it starts
Dips
dropping
down
down from the
back.
road, it goes down. So it's sinking
I
down,
think
and
it
this
shows
is,
up on
this
the
probably,
Yeah.
GIS.
Well, Sarah,
you know,
I'll
looks
look.
pretty, looks pretty flat from,
Okay.
you know, what you can see, it's pretty limited.
Okay, any other issues or comments? I will point out that we have established an escrow account, so there'll be a notice to the owners to maintain, I don't know what the dollar amount is right now, in it. They've made an application fee. Now there's an escrow account to
Okay.
pay for the, basically
Review.
the consultants going
Okay.
forward on it, so we have to maintain the consultant.
Okay, so
Make that
I'll get notice on that, or they
Yeah.
will?
Well, they'll get notice on that, so someone will be aware of that. It's the only way I can continue
Sure.
using the consultants going forward on it.
That's it?
Yeah, let me just,
Okay.
just have you sign right in the middle there. If you have any questions, just talk to Peter.
Do you,
See if you got it before you lay it down. No, it's original subdivision to be included, well and septic location on lot 2, trees and development to be identified, I think we're talking about the tree lines there.
looks like it's beautiful though, it's coming up from Williams Lake and across over
You
here.
got me now, I was good till then.
Sediment control.
Sediment control, all right,
I might go for a while.
erosion, and, yeah, topographical information, where David said. Copy of the deed,
Ag statement.
And I think some of it's.
Site distance for the driveway, ag statement.
Is that something I have to provide, the ag statement, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's our also send it to
We'll send it
Your
to you.
email?
Yes,
She'll send it, I'll send it to her.
all right.
Okay. We'll see where we are then, posting of the escrow account, and we get these things answered, then we can schedule a public hearing
Yeah.
for it.
Well, it's going to take time to get the
Yeah,
septic approval.
well, that's right, it said,
Yeah.
when you get to that stage on it, we can go forward on that one.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Tim?
This is your map?
Yep. Okay, this is, tell us about your, apartment plans.
It's Carmine
think-
and Angela Bruno.
Hi.
How are you?
Well, just an apartment on top of our garage that we'd
It's,
like to make.
It's a two-story garage, which I'd like to put an apartment upstairs.
Dave? Yes, I think we got, I don't have
Accessory apartment.
it. Right. As soon as I get to my, bottom of my pile again, and
Yeah.
find out where I'm at.
Do we have a report from Stacy on this?
Oh, you should have, I got all the paperwork, man.
I don't remember,
Okay. You do? Everybody's going. Yeah?
I looked at it.
okay. Okay, we're gonna figure out who to blame now on this
Yeah.
one, okay.
I thought Stacy had already looked at this, but I did look at this too.
Okay.
There was new septic.
Yes, there's gonna be a new septic, new electric, new plumbing, whole works.
It's has to be within the 35% of the floor area of the home, and it makes it easily, it's 18%, so we're good there. There's enough acreage, it's a 22-acre parcel. For an accessory apartment, in that zone, you need 5 1/4 acres. Parking is provided, there's more parking than is actually necessary, that's available there. Looks like it makes it all of the requirements, there's no parking in the setbacks.
Are they existing as single-family house?
Yes.
No, it's just, I can't tell if it's a one or a two.
That's one.
And this is what they're building over the garage.
Yep.
I'm sorry to bother you, but we just got in, my husband and I. I'm sorry we weren't able to come earlier. We're at 1 TU Drive, and I just wanted to know what the,
We'll talk.
we'll talk.
Yeah, okay,
I just
I
don't
will,
know if I missed anything, or.
sit down, okay? Just relax, okay?
That's the garage, over the garage. Here's the
I don't remember.
full site. Parking spaces. and that one.
So it has the,
Yeah.
It's below the percentage, it has the parking, it's going to take care of the septic issue.
okay.
Is it a new septic or extended septic?
It's a new septic that's being installed.
Gonna put in a 1,000-gallon concrete tank. I mean, don't need 1,000, but I'm gonna put 1,000.
Is there
It's good, bigger the better.
Yeah.
anything issue on lighting or for the parking is, or?
There's nothing here about new lighting that's gonna be put in? Are
Well,
you,
I got a new pole put in because I couldn't run direct, so I had to put a pole halfway to run the line, new electric line in from the road to the
put
pole.
outside lighting?
Oh, of
Oh, yeah,
course,
yeah, yeah.
spotlights, yeah.
Oh, spotlights.
We'll do all that.
What? I thought you were talking about
Don't say
electric.
spotlight.
Not me, by lights.
There's gonna be
All right,
lights.
time out now. Have a little chat on.
Lighting, yes.
What kind of lighting do you
You need to
need?
make sure that the lighting doesn't go over the property line, so it's either the traffic sees it, or it needs to be directed right
Oh,
to
all right.
what you're trying to light. It needs to be low wattage,
Okay.
so it's not bright, basically.
Normal
There's no glare.
residential
Yeah, whatever the
lighting,
code
just
is.
safety lighting for somebody to get in and out of their cars and into
Yeah,
their
yeah.
apartment, right?
Right, well, the electrician would know what to do
Just a
there.
regular,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
that you don't do like a supermarket design.
Of course,
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
That's
We
basically
don't
what
want-
he's
But
means
it's,
right there.
again,
You
we
just
look,
want something little.
Safe.
some little, but you
Yeah.
want, we go basically
Yeah.
from a safety point of view.
Yeah.
Can they park their car and get in without, tripping over something? So we're looking for some, whether it's motion lighting or something else like that.
Right.
That's on it at night, but then from Dave's point of view, you shouldn't be driving down the road to see it.
Yeah.
Okay?
No,
Okay, you shouldn't spill like a,
okay.
Usually there's a light over the doors, usually
Yeah, all that'll,
enough.
yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Got a question. Is the existing well gonna be enough to supply the new apartment?
The existing,
Or are you putting a new well?
I know
in
I'm
for the-
putting a new well.
New
in.
well, no.
I mean, no, there's not a well, septic. It's got water now
In the barn,
in the garage.
in the garage, I mean.
It's
Yeah.
got water there.
Okay.
Because years ago, her uncle put the water in, so it's in there.
Yeah.
So it's a separate lot?
Huh?
That's a separate lot? I don't know.
No, it's not a
No, it
separate
isn't.
well.
It's
No,
separate.
Oh,
it's,
okay.
it's coming from the main house.
Okay, so it's an existing well.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Yep.
the
I
answer.
didn't know it. First
The trick question.
This is all new to us.
Yeah.
I understand. It's new to me sometimes too, so don't feel bad about it. You have a short form? Well, there's one included? We should have one, right?
It's a very raveled.
Can we get a copy? That's it. She can get a copy. We can get a copy. We have to do an environmental review. It's a short form that we need to be filled
It's all
out.
garage, so, yeah.
So basically, what I'm gonna ask you is
Okay, crash pad.
take a couple of minutes,
That'd be perfect.
fill out the front
And
part
you
of
have
it,
garage
because it's
downstairs,
basically
you
asks your
put
name
stuff.
and address and things of that sort. We'll then flip it over and fill
You
out the
what?
back. We'll probably, if we can do it tonight, we'll get some,
We do it here right now?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'll just push you off into the audience, let you fill it out, and I'll show you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's who you are, and it's pretty self-explanatory. If you come across a question you're not sure of, just hold it up and I'll bring you back in and we'll talk about it. Then we will do the the planning board does this one on it, okay?
Very good.
I've had Kelly just punch out the whole overlay district section, so.
Okay.
Great.
This is just a little overview of proposal that's coming before the town board, and they will be referring this to the planning board, but this is kind of an early look at it. Back at the time of the transportation and land use plan, there was a recommendation that the town adopt access management guidelines in the zoning code, and it's about a 30 to 40 page document. There's an appendix in that on what should be included in the overlay management, the access management overlay district. That was worked on for quite a while. We got the project about a year and a half ago. At that time, the board didn't want to go ahead with it because they had so much else on their plate. And it came back when Susan got back in office. We worked on it. We tried to take that 30-page and distill it down to what was really needed. We ended up contacting someone in the DOT that does a lot of these, and he took a look at it, critiqued it, said there was too much engineering in it.
That's what a coincidence.
He took it and he agreed to try to sift it out. He's done quite a few of these. So he took the code that we had and took some of the engineering out. We're going to have to put some of that back in the subdivision code. But the purpose of this is to really manage access along state highways and also along South Putt Corners Road, since that was an area that's going to be developing, and access is going to be key to that. The applications apply to all properties within 400 feet of the center of a state road in the town. It provides for a traffic study to be done when certain thresholds are met on generated traffic for a development, and it defines large development as part of the code. It also allows the planning board to require traffic impact studies for lesser threshold than that if they can see that there's an issue. It also allows for retrofitting some non-conforming accesses. It grandfathers them, but it also, if there's some redevelopment that happens on the parcel, then it tries to bring them into a conforming state. The access standards, the state and the county are going to pretty well dictate what they need. The town can go with more mitigation or whatever if seeker, for example, would identify something that required more than what the state or the county identified. There's some minimum site distances that are here that don't apply to any intersections or pedestrian crosswalks.
David, this is again applicable to someone abutting a state road, you're saying? Or within 400 feet?
Within 400 feet of that.
Okay, okay.
There's some recommendations for when traffic signals might be considered, also some spacing for unsignalized intersections. There's also one thing in this code that's something that the town does not have in the other parts of the zoning code, and that's an incentive for development. If, for example, there were a commercial parcel, significant commercial parcel that was going to be developed and the long-range plans were to have service roads to limit access or to make sure that there were cross easements, so you didn't have to access the state or county road in numerous places. If a developer were going to do more than was really called for by the code, the planning board could recommend that perhaps it get additional density, or it doesn't really say in there exactly what the incentive would be. They could recommend that to the town board. The town board would decide ultimately what benefit would be there.
And in plain speak, that means we could combine access points, for example, and then give it an incentive rather than have Burger King have an access and then ShopRite if they're all adjacent. Is that that's basically what you're saying,
Trying
Dave?
to kind of plan ahead
Yeah,
where
yeah.
the developer might build more than what he's going to use right away. It might be a phased project. He's doing the first part, but you can see that it would be much better to have a service road, for example, instead of just chopping it up with accesses. And there's also a variance at the end of this, variance provisions. George looked at this. George looked at this and found some issues with the legality of some of it. Variances was one. There's a variance procedure in the zoning code, and perhaps that should be changed to a waiver where the planning board, based on certain conditions, might be able to waive. There's some other pieces in here that George felt needed some tightening up, to say the least, or some changes to make it clear. The town board will be looking at this on Thursday. The Access Transportation Committee has been looking at this for some time now. In fact, they say that this is they're coming up on their 6-year celebration of trying to get this thing as part of the code.
7-year itch.
So, Dave, can I ask you can you give an example of where an access road, on either 299 or give me an example of what with one of our shopping centers maybe, where or how would you foresee the access road? Like, lay one out for me.
Well, I'm thinking of
Like ShopRite maybe?
ShopRite was one that George had mentioned it's a good idea to take a look at and see how these would apply to
Yeah.
ShopRite. See what we would have done differently if this were in place.
Stop and Shop.
Stop it.
The one on the north
Right.
side of
Stop
299?
and Shop.
Either
Why
one.
don't
I
we
just,
do
I'm
that?
want, yeah.
Well, we went through a review of Stop and Shop.
Okay.
And we did look at connections to adjoining properties.
Mhm.
And there were some issues with the way the development was laid out.
The adjoining commercial properties.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And there is on the east side, I believe, a easement that does exist. And then there is an agreement to consider a future access point if and when the property on the west side is ever proposed for development. And that's sort of where we got to with that.
So an easement that would take you from the ShopRite property to what,
No.
North Putt or?
Stop
Mm-mm.
Stop and Shop.
Stop and Shop.
Stop and Shop,
I
fine.
misspoke.
To the medical center?
The medical
Yes.
center connection to
But
the.
Yeah, I understand. So the
Okay.
easement would take you from the Stop and Shop property to where?
In
To
concept,
North
it would
Platte?
take you from the Stop and Shop to the medical center without going out on 299.
Uh-huh.
The difficulty with that is you would have to go past Bank of America.
Have to go through the bank and exit out
Yeah.
that way.
Turn and cut down, it's trying to fit in that accessibility thing into a structure or a site that was built up in the 1970s without really thinking through how that would work.
Yeah,
It's-
okay.
But there is a connection, for example, from Rite Aid to behind Burger King,
Burger King.
from
Yes.
one property to the next. I don't know if they're required to have that or if it's just evolved, but
No, that was part of site plan.
that was part of it.
it's the
Burger
shiny-
King site plan was to connect to Rite Aid. It's not the smoothest one, I mean, you're gonna
Yeah.
It's up or down, but it's a connection. That's about the only one we got. We
Sort of like a speed
kind of
bump.
blew it on Midas. That's, we didn't get through to Midas. That's what's the limitation on that one.
So what are some examples if you're mindful of South Putt Corners?
There's some large parcels there, not knowing how they're going to develop at this point. But it could be that some common accesses would pay off there instead of just chopping off accesses for each parcel.
Well, can't we do that at the time of site plan review anyway? Can't we suggest, that, for example, an access, if it works, that it be put on a common boundary, for example? And so that it's almost, I'm gonna say a shared driveway, but it's gonna be a shared access road, and we split it down. Can't we, just as part of our site plan review?
You can't
How does
do
this
that.
different?
You can do that. When you have it in the law, it's a little more force. You can point to it.
Okay, so this
Yeah,
is just
well,
making that legal, because what you're saying is we would be
can't
doing that by
require-
policy, just as
Yes.
in, that's a good
Well-
idea, but this makes it law.
You would be doing it pursuant to your site plan
Review.
review, and I believe there's provision in there for looking at connection to adjoining properties.
Yeah.
But this would specify it, and it does make it a legal obligation to do.
Okay.
And the thing that Dave and I were talking about, in subdivisions where you have one piece of property that's being divided up,
Mm-hmm.
that's the logical point at which you look at the relationships between
Yeah,
different
yeah.
parcels before it's subdivided. Once it's subdivided, and you have one applicant come in with one part of that chunk, and then the next guy is sitting there and does not want to participate or doesn't have a plan, you have to sort of put together the cats
Yeah.
rather than dividing up something that's straightforward. That's where making an incentive may have a real opportunity, because then if the applicant that's before you has enthusiasm for working something out with the neighbors
Mhm.
and can bring some of that incentive and divide it up, it can work for all concerned so that they will actually get together
Yeah,
and put a
yeah,
plan
yeah.
up.
I guess the thing that threw me was when you said an access road, I was thinking of almost like an interior minor roadway somehow, as opposed to more than just an access easement. So I was thinking of almost like a road that's running behind, like a parallel road to 299, but it's behind. I didn't, yeah. Something that you said made me start thinking about a different setup. I get the shared parking, the shared properties and the shared access easements and everything, so.
If you had a
Yeah.
longer frontage, a service road might make some sense. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't,
Maybe there's some 208 frontage eventually
Yeah, I don't
or
know.
out there.
yeah, that becomes really suburban, I think.
And
Or really different, yeah.
This is all related to kind of deeming that area, that South Putt Corners area, as a place to develop commercially. That's why this is before us.
It's an area that's targeted for development. It has been now for.
First, you said going on 6
Mhm.
years, but my question about that is, I believe that the village is also looking at the area where we're sitting here as a place to develop, and are the town and village communicating properly? Like, should we really have two different commercial districts being pursued simultaneously, or should the village and town be on the same page and focus on one as opposed
Well,
to
let me
both?
back up. And South Putt Corners is not zoned commercial. Okay, there's no commercial development except, what? B2 goes down, what, 400 feet?
Yeah, 500 feet or something.
500 feet, that's as far as it down. The rest of it is all zoned industrial,
Light industrial.
light industrial. So it's not,
Well, commercial or light industrial, and
no.
it just seems
it's-
like any sort of business district, whether it's that area or this area, it seems like it would be prudent to focus on one versus both. And if we have these competing municipalities not mindful of what the other is doing, it seems a little counterintuitive.
No, again, we're talking light industrial and they're talking commercial coming up 32 here. Okay, so, but I agree, it
It's
shouldn't be
kind of
competing.
semantics, I think.
No, it isn't.
No,
It's certain things you
uses,
can't
it's
do.
land uses,
It's
so
different.
one to be a heavy, like an industrial use, and the other will be the Verizon store. Those are different, one's selling solar panels and has 18-wheelers coming out of it in an industrial, and then one might be a food store. So commercial downtown is different than an industrial area.
So, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
that familiar with the village's plans for B3 development, but is it
Commercial.
exclusively commercial and not light industrial, or,
Yeah.
or not anything
Yeah, I
that
think
would-
so. I think so.
They-
And
they-
it should be if it's not.
Yeah, their plan coming up here, and that's what, you know, we've looked at too, is the continuation of their commercial going north on 32, and how's that play into how we have zoned the town the rest of the way up, or at least up to Shivertown Road, because there are some commercial establishments in the town that are there now, and should we have commercial on both sides of the road? We're not zoned that way in the town. But that's where the commercial. South Putt and North Putt corners were always looked as light industrial, office buildings, complexes of that sort, but not any retail commercial establishment. There was no intention of developing retail commercial along there because it would take away from basically the Main Street corridor. So.
But you're right in terms of the commercial being joined up, in terms of looking at it as one, just in terms of commercial development. It's different, yeah.
But I would
Okay.
still be concerned if the village had any ideas of developing this area for light industrial, or you're telling me it's an impossibility for them to even consider?
No, I think it's their B2 is commercial all the way north, right?
If you'd like.
Go ahead.
The plan is not for light industrial. The idea is to create more mixed-use residential and commercial. But there is currently some industrial there that may be grandfathered in, and we're still working out the kinks on that. I mean, you all know what's here already.
Yep.
But the idea would be to attract some kind of maybe hotel or something more along those lines, as well as maybe some more housing.
So that's what they're looking north. That would not exist basically going down South Putt, because it wouldn't be, it's not zoned for that on it. So I think the Hampton Inn is about as far south as you can get in our B2 commercial zone. The rest of it's all light industrial. The packing plants, Apple Package and Frito-Lay, that's the type of things that are allowed along that road.
The attraction of South Putt also is the exit ramp on the thruway. I mean, that's traffic-wise, that does have some benefit to having hopefully employment close where the traffic is not through the village, not through the.
Well, on that note, read it over. Any zoning change that the town board proposes to make it, they will send a copy of it to the planning board for their review and comments back to them. They will have a public hearing on a zoning law change, but the town planning board can input that. I've had planning board members go by themselves to the zoning hearings and make statements on their own also. So at this stage of the game, we haven't officially got it. This is just really a heads up that it should be coming shortly to us, and we'll ask for a review and comments back to them as a modification to it. So what I would like you to do is kind of read it over. We'll get a better timeline on it, and we'll put it on the administrative discussion to see what kind of comments we want to submit back to them on it. So usually we get it right before they want to send it to a public hearing, so we got a little bit of time on this one. So okay, any other questions on it? All righty, I think that's. We did those last.
Oh, you did them last time?
Yep.
Okay. I just had those files, so, okay.
Oh, yeah, you got those, yeah, we did those last time. Okay, now we'll switch gears. Come on up, Wilma Wright. And let me just clean my desk off, gonna clean my
Ladies, gentlemen. All right.
Hello, guys.
Should I scoot down one? Okay. Never mind. Never mind. You're fine. You're fine. No, you're fine. Slid it over. Get it over there. Yeah, let's just leave him there. You will want that though. Dave, how are you? You in?
Eileen, thanks for testing. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I don't think you were here last time.
I was not.
Have you been having dinner here in Newport in any of our wonderful restaurants?
What's that?
Have you been having dinner here in any of our wonderful restaurants?
All of them. All of them. Experimented with most.
You could do worse.
No, there's a lot of great restaurants
How are
here.
you, Tom?
You mean? They're amazing.
You could go through a year and not have
That's true. No, there's a heck of a selection.
all right, let's see where we're at. I recall last time, I could have to read the minutes on, but that'd take a little fun out of it. We had gotten the first bit of write-up on the 3 of the sections, and on Thursday, the board really didn't review it all, so we said we'd take the time to go back and do a review of that. And you proposed to work on the formatting issues, or formatting suggestions that came up out of the last session. Bring this document and make sure that we're okay before we go through the rest of the material on that. And the third thing we wanted to do was to continue with some site plan review issues. So, comfortable in your part?
I'm interested in where we stand with the financial analysis, and we keep talking about waiting on numbers and whether we're going to
Okay,
put the horse regarding hiring.
I met with the police commission and the emergency squad. I still have to meet with the fire department. We'll have to get Kelly to set that up. We didn't get together. It was just a conflict last 2 weeks. So I met with the police commission and emergency services, the ambulance corps. We reviewed some things. I asked a number of questions. And we had a pretty good discussion. Dave and George were in attendance at the meeting also. And we raised some, so they were going back to do the numbers. Poor person that came from the emergency services was more of a carrier than the one who put it together. So she took back a list of questions and with the intent of getting back to us on it. On the numbers. Likewise, on a police commission, again, we asked some questions on it. The key on the police commission was really the requirements not on the site, but in the town itself, the additional responsibilities that would bring in 700 people into the community. On it. So they're working on the numbers. That was what is it? A week ago. I think we met. We met on Monday. It's a week ago. I think that they're going in the right direction. I haven't seen anything back from, but
So
I
I just
expect
want
them.
to be clear on the process. So once we collect numbers or data, that's when we're going to begin this RFP process and look to hire an analyst? and we're gonna provide this data to the analyst, and then they're gonna.
What I'm really looking at is we're gonna produce the data. What I think, and I'll just throw it out, is will I be able to use the data? What we'll do is get a peer review of what they've done by somebody else to check the validity of the numbers and whether they came up with the same thing. That's.
Well, wasn't that the intent of creating the RFP?
Yeah, the RFP, it basically itself was spent, at least the response that we got was developing the data. And I think we'll have the data. We don't need the consultant to go dig it up because
I understand that. I
yeah.
just wanna, so what kind of time, I mean, I realize it's very difficult to predict when we're gonna get this data, but I don't for the sake of trying to expedite this process, I don't understand why we're not trying to identify potential peer reviewers,
yeah.
so that once we have the data, we've already selected someone, so then we can hand them the data to do their analysis.
We have about a half dozen consultants that are willing to do the work when we scope out exactly what they need to do. Our scope before was so wide that.
You mean our scope that was
The
basically a
RFP.
list of questions in the RFP?
Right.
So we're changing our RFP?
We're trying to collect the data so that Wilmerite can take that and come up with their cost, and then we're going to hire an outside independent consultant to take a look at their report and verify that or disagree with it.
So, but Dave, where did the other 6 people come up from? I thought we had one person submit, so where did we get the other people? We haven't put it out again.
We have the other people, they've responded that they're
Oh,
interested.
so there are
if
other
the-
people that responded. Oh, okay, I just.
Well,
The RFP needs to be narrowed before they're going to respond. They
Okay.
said, 2 of them said that what they saw was, it was much too wide.
Mhm.
It was not something that they were going to respond to. We did get one response.
For the amount of time, there's too much information that has to be compiled.
Well, it's data collection, and again, the data collection is coming from the same sources. So I think we made progress on it. We'll do follow-up next week with the police commission and the emergency services, and we'll try to meet with the fire department to see where they are in the numbers and whether they need any assistance or they have any questions or what they're going to produce on it. But we had a pretty good discussion on how to formulate, how to come up with, how to visualize some of this information. And it was different than what they were looking at.
I think Tim's correct though, and I think it wouldn't hurt to try to shortlist and get, I mean, we're doing what we're doing, we can still shortlist or get somebody that's waiting in the wings so that we don't come up to 2 months from now and then now we're gonna start a process of who we're gonna get to look at this and do, whatever. I think it would be good to have somebody maybe,
Okay.
ready to go. No?
The one that submitted is very interested. I get emails from him twice a week. He wants to know when it's ready, when the information is ready.
Yeah, and who will
He
be
wants to be
selecting the
considered.
consultant then also, Mike? How does that, who's gonna select the consultant?
We haven't really, since we haven't done that, we kind of open on it. I was working with Dave and writing up the RFP and sending it out. But we can, if anybody wants to join in that group.
So it's a planning board decision, basically.
It's a planning board, right, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that it's
Yeah.
not a council decision, it's a planning board.
It's
So-
plan- no,
So
it's
you should
planning.
probably get some peer
Yeah.
people
So,
on there, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's where we're at. Hopefully, I'll get something soon, but I'll ask and see where they are on it. I'll work with Sue. Sue's been very helpful in getting the discussion. I think it went pretty well. Back and forth on it, and the thing of it is there's a number of questions that the police commission and the chief have to ask themselves going forward on it, of not only from a manpower standpoint, from an equipment standpoint, what's associated with that too, and what kind of cycle they go on. for that. As I explained, if they need a new fire truck and the fire truck lasts 30 years, then somewhere along the line, you gotta have dollars being put aside over a 30-year period to be able to buy the fire truck. So, capital expenses get, yeah, but you're still paying it off over 30, one way or the other on it, and so that's an expense. It's a capital project, a large project, and then it gets amortized it over the period of time. So that's what I want to make sure that we're not missing that either on looking forward on it. So,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question about that? I'm the late guy to the party, so I guess I'm a little confused over. So you anticipate asking the police department and the fire department to provide you with information to determine what the economic impact of the project might be?
quantify that, yeah. Obviously.
To quantify what?
Obviously, well, take the fire department, for instance, an easy one.
Number of calls.
There'll be similar calls to similar locations. And what does that mean from their standpoint, from equipment and manpower point of view?
Okay. And then with that information, I assume the applicant, my client, will extrapolate that to come up with some figure which they determine will be their component of those costs in terms of the impact. And I assume they're going to do it with the police department and with the fire department and come to a conclusion on that. So I'm a little lost to figure out why there would need to be a third party to do a further analysis of that. If we're working with the police department and we're working with the fire department and you're working with the fire department, why do you need a third party to do an analysis?
We've spoken about this for 6 months.
And I apologize for coming in late, and I'd like to at least have a sense of that, since it has delayed the process a significant amount of time. So I apologize for asking the question, but I have a client, and I'd like to understand the reasons and the rationale for it.
It would be helpful, extremely helpful, if everybody agreed on the numbers.
Okay.
Okay, and in areas we've tried to do that. Other areas we've had two different sets of discussions on it. So from a planning board point of view, when it's uncomfortable that's getting two different viewpoints, it will look for a third party.
But if the police and the fire and the planning board and the applicant agree to those numbers, you're saying that wouldn't be...
It wouldn't be an adversarial position then. Okay?
Why are we retaining somebody? Because we need a fiscal, because none of the board members nor, we have lay people we have professionals that are obviously police department, fire department, and they're coming up with figures. We're going to have a third party come in to inform and help evaluate the information for things that they may not know, they may not miss, they may miss. And we want a fiscal impact person to evaluate the information to represent the board. That's what we've been discussing for 6 months.
I think Eileen put it best 6 months ago, is we're really actually trying to assist in this process and streamline the process, because if we have a third party verify this discussion and say, yes, this makes sense, then the community can get comfortable with the cost of emergency services. If we just continue to have your consultants review this data, then the community's never going to get comfortable. That's what's happening here.
Can I'd like to go back up just the bigger picture, and this is part of it. But again, we were charged after the hearing process to start the FEIS to help guide you through it. We've been endeavoring to do that. We addressed 3 chapters that we felt that we didn't have to wait for numbers economically. We felt we had the input from Spider on the ecology. Traffic, we thought we had good basis for moving ahead on the FEIS comments. So what we endeavored to do over the past couple of months is work and finalize chapters, if you will, that we felt could move together, so that one purpose would be we didn't have to lay all of the chapters on you at one time and said, see you in a couple of months or see you next week, and move forward. So that's what we have done. Now, What we have also done through some mutual frustration in trying to get numbers on the work that we did in our initial DEIS was we have received numbers. We haven't necessarily received opinions moving forward on what the budget will be in 5 years for an issue, but through any number of sources, and including FOIL sources to get the information, because we didn't want to continue to wait forever. We have foiled certain information. We have enough information that we feel, as the sponsor, we can further quantify the information in the DEIS. That's being finalized. We anticipate that will be finalized in approximately the next week, along with, quite frankly, the rest of the work in the other chapters. I'm just telling you in the bigger picture of things, the 20,000-foot view of things, that we're starting here tonight to discuss a few of the chapters, but we feel that we're probably about a week plus or minus away from our end of the fiscal analysis. We're taking the same information a consultant's going to take of yours. How many calls? How much does it cost? What is the existing budget? What's existing been spent? We're on it. We're doing it. We hope you agree with it, but no matter what, if you need a third party to do the review, that's fine. We're trying to get it done timely by asking for this information. So I'm just telling you in the bigger picture, we're very close to in the bigger picture of what we've all been through for over 2 years in the seeker process. We're trying to come to terms with, are there significant impacts or not at the bottom line.
Yep.
So that's where we're at. We're happy to be here tonight to go over what we've given you to date, because it's important that you see how we've done things, how we formatted them, how we worded them, etc. So for tonight's purpose, I don't know whether it was mutual or not, but the ecology section is very important for us to have Spider engaged. We have worked, I believe, incredibly well with him. Ecology, natural resources on the site were probably the highest priority for us going back 4 years. In talking to Spider last week, he had not, to his satisfaction, had the time to review it. He was going to push that review over the weekend to participate tonight. We thought it was a little more prudent to make sure he had the right amount of time if he had questions to get back to us. So I believe it was kind of mutual on that end, that it's very important. 'Cause we have our wetland and ecology specialist that you've met before that we would like here with him when we discuss that, and Spider thought that it would be pushing it to try and come tonight. So so even though we've submitted that part to you, we would certainly ask that you read it, but I'm not here with my specialist and you're not here with yours to do it in depth.
Can we go back for 1 second? So before you keep going, so then I think just based on the statement, then we need to get our third-party person sooner than later. And what we were just saying before, let's get somebody sort of lined up so we're ready to go with that, rather than wait.
Well, I think we're there. I think we have
okay, I didn't mean to
the third party,
I just wanted to.
And I will pursue getting the numbers next week to see where they're at and get a statement from that. And probably work through something to see if we can.
We're comfortable with our due diligence.
Sue up on another meeting for next week, or this week actually. This Monday. I'll try this week.
What I would like to ask then, to value all of our time, is we have the transportation, FEIS related, the response to comments, etc., that we've submitted to you. If you have any questions about it, in reading it and reviewing it, that's what we're here for tonight. But what we've also done is, in response to your thought process on formatting.
Yep.
Let me say that I want to say this right. We've gotten to know each other pretty well over a few years here. We've done a few of these FEISs, and we've done many that's had plenty of controversy, plenty of input. In this case, you know, we have 64 written comments. We have a lot of public comments. The law itself doesn't specify your format or ours. It suggests the practicality of what's really needed moving forward, not how you have to format it. Our experience has been that especially when you've got projects of this volume, that you do it by category and you include in those categories the comments either written or public, and you try and answer them collectively. That's the way we approached it. When Doug was here with you a couple weeks ago and you talked about formatting, the suggestion was a little bit different format process, and it was really more along the lines of answering things individually, is the way we were hearing it.
Okay.
And we were also hearing incorporating the DEIS comments into the FEIS in the way of response. There are a number of circumstances here that we've listened to over the months in the public process where, quite frankly, comments were made that, because we were not speaking at these hearings, we knew in many cases that the comments that were being raised were in fact in the DEIS. And the individual may have missed them or whatever. That's natural. That's not a complaint. But the best way in the process, in the seeker process, we have found is to incorporate the DEIS by reference as a document, which it is anyways, part of the process, and reference it, because the inclusion of that then extrapolated either whole or in part into the FEIS ends up in some duplication and chances for question on accuracy between the two. What we have done is we took the transportation section that you now have, that you were submitted a couple weeks ago, okay? We took that and we reformatted it to what we believe you were asking for in the way of reformatting, just so that you could take how we have done it and presented it and what we think you were asking for. And so we would need your input on that. We took the transportation section actually because it's one of the most intrinsic. It's one of the one that's most intrinsic on its calculation and on its levels of service or whatever it might be in the scope. So I have that to give to you, realizing that you are not going to sit here right now and read it. So tonight I would like to see if you've got any questions on the transportation or the zoning section that we gave you. But I want to hand this to you so that you can see what we believe the formatting you're asking for is. We believe ultimately you're not going to exactly like this format, but I have to walk on eggshells on that one. One of the things I want to point out in the way we reformatted it to the way we think you wanted it was I have not yet incorporated the references to the DEIS. We just didn't have time to do that. Okay. So this reformatting in itself is even a little, it's not complete because I believe the request was to take information out of the DEIS and put it right here in front of you in this. So I'll leave this with you. But
Is that new? What's the date of that?
That's yesterday.
Yesterday. So
yes.
Is that same document there, but with comments from last week's meeting?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right?
What?
That's what you
Yeah.
said.
No.
Basically, it's a reformation of what you already.
Yes, what I'm handing to you is really what you have here, but reformatted.
Reformatted. It's nothing. It shouldn't be
what you're
anything
asking
new
for.
on it.
Right, okay.
Nothing new, no new words really. It's just putting words in different places. I also want to submit to you that having done that exercise to put it in that format, which again I'm not sure you're going to be satisfied with at the end of the day, we indexed the time and effort to do that. And it's going to take a significant more amount of time for us to do that FEIS in its whole in that format, probably up to 3 to 4 weeks of time, and that's not only calendar time, but that's time and effort to reformat all of this on a individual question basis. So this evening I would like to see if you have any questions about these two sections that we've put together. Not so much about the format, but just basically about, you have a DEIS presented to you, you have a public process that's occurred that raised questions about it, you have the applicant's answers to that. Again, I would not want you to look at the new item I passed out right now.
Not to worry about that.
Okay.
Can you explain though, I mean, can you just give us the red, it means,
Sure.
just, I mean, if that's okay, and then, so when I look at this, then I'll know what we're.
How about if you get, oh, I got mine. Okay. I was going to ask you for one back.
Yeah.
What, if you see an item like an individual and a number next to it,
Right.
okay, that is indexed to the fact that that person has been identified with that number as making a comment in the process, coming out of the transcripts, etc. In your cases, like you say, planning board 64A, B, and C, that just simply acknowledges that you as a board ask sort of three different types of questions
Yep.
on it, okay? And in the answer, you see the italics portion of this, where we provide you with answers to those questions?
Right.
In red, you have those numbers, 29.
Okay, so who that
and
responds to, I
That's
gotcha.
who the response was.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's how we took away a couple of weeks ago your request to basically be answering and identifying issues more on an individualized basis than a category basis. If you look at what we submitted to you prior to that in the package with the three sections to it, you would see we grouped
Group the questions in.
about 9 or so different people, again, have those same identification numbers. They all asked questions that were similar in their nature in that particular section. Like on parking, there was, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to just guess here that there's 10 people that asked a question generally about parking. And then we gave you those responses collectively. Okay. So that's the difference in the formatting we put together versus the formatting we were hearing. And again, to reiterate, we also, in many cases, if you read these responses, I'm looking for an example here, but we may, for instance, say that issue was answered in the DEIS under section so-and-so, paragraph so-and-so. That may be our answer. What we were hearing last time was that paragraph or whatever it might be out of the DEIS be also added to this, and I have not done that, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well, we were just trying to,
So that if somebody asked a question, that it actually is in the final, or, you know, somebody, like a group of questions about something, that it's actually in the final report, correct?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So it's, there's, moving forward, we're, again, you are the lead agency, this is your document. This is ultimately going to be your words, your thought process on format, what is understandable to you, and you're ultimately going to write findings around it. What we're really doing is providing guidance.
Yep. That's suggestion on.
And our suggestion on guidance is to format it this way. Ultimately,
I think basically what you did is useful. This is what we asked for last time. We asked you to identify a question and then just tie it in where you may have answered that question in the response. So that's exactly what we asked for. And I understand that that's probably more time consuming going back and doing this. I think we appreciate that, but then moving forward, if you're completing new sections, it probably shouldn't be as time consuming when you're writing new sections to do it. That's
when we're writing new sections, that's correct. But what's really important about anything I said is that what's the most user-friendly for you moving forward.
Yep.
And I think that's why
right.
we've asked for the things that we've asked for. The idea of including a comment from the DEIS that helps answer a specific question. We've said this many times, I don't think we're looking for cut and paste large sections of the DEIS into this, but I think unless you have useful reference to the DEIS, then it's just gonna make this document more clumsy. And again, I feel like every time we ask for something, you act like we're just trying to prolong the process, but if anything, it's the opposite. What I think we're trying to do here is...
I disagree with that statement.
All right. It's not necessary.
I can't disagree with that statement more.
Great, well,
okay.
I think the reason that we're asking for what we're asking for...
It's just not merited by the facts. It's just not merited by the facts at all.
Can we just
Well,
get
every
through
time I
this?
ask a question, I get a smirk or mumbling under someone's breath.
Who's smirking and mumbling?
Okay,
Everybody's been
let's
sitting here
get
for
it
nearly
off.
3 years, Tim.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
They've been as
talking about the
cooperative
last
as they can be.
3 meetings. I'm talking about the
Been
last
very
3
cooperative.
meetings.
All right.
The opposite.
I'm
of
just,
cooperative.
I'm just saying that
Very
it's really a mischaracterization of what's been going on here for a
Okay,
long
well,
time.
I disagree with you.
All right.
Fine.
We can
disagree.
agree to disagree. Let's move on to certain
Okay.
pertinent
And
and factual
and
stuff.
I think it would be useful to include if there is a quote from the DEIS, if you're answering a question, to refer to it. I don't think we're asking for large cut and pasted paragraphs.
Okay. Actually, that's exactly what our procedure has been, is to refer to it. And that's the format we've suggested.
Refer to it.
Refer to it.
Refer
Can
to
you
it.
include it,
I
though?
understand the reference, but I'm asking for if there is a particular
It makes it easier
sentence
to,
or
if
comment.
you had a synopsis including it.
There's two things on this issue, and let me just try to address it. When you refer to DEIS, if it's a one sentence that said it in there, and you can pull that and paste it in, but if it takes 4 paragraphs to answer that question again, then maybe you should just reference it.
We will use our
split.
discretion. I've
That's
asked the
what
question.
you just said.
I will use our discretion to do that. And as I said in the beginning, we are preparing a document for you. It's ultimately your judgment, again, just like with the DEIS, whether that's acceptable. And then the second choice is, if it's not, we make it acceptable, or you have someone in your purview make it acceptable. I mean, we would anticipate that you would want to change wording or something along the way as well.
Most assuredly.
So it will just, we will look for your advice. I'm saying that in about a week, we hope to have all of this to you,
Okay.
plus or minus. If,
Yep.
The whole package will be done, is what you're saying?
We're
Basically, okay.
we're trying. We've got. Please appreciate I have 5 attorneys and a few other people and a client reviewing this, and but we're trying to get it in your hands shortly, and we'll move on. But it would help me tonight, for our purposes, as we had intended to. In the absence of the ecology section, and hopefully we can put that on our agenda in 2 weeks and make sure Spider can get here. We certainly can. But if you have questions, if you've read the traffic section and you have questions, let's move on from formatting. But if you have questions, we spent a lot of time. There's a lot of comments made about parking and parking space. I think you know, from a site plan standpoint, what we've done on many of those issues.
Well, tell you the truth, I think what I'd like to do, and again, from the board's perspective, if they'd like to do it, generally what I get into is reviewing documents is, and it's painful, but it's a pager. Are there any comments on that page, or are there any comments on that page? To the extent that we have comments on the pages, that we'll raise them, whether they're editorial, whether questions or what have you. I think it just gives you a handle of where we're going with it. And then,
So are we waiting for Spider and your person from, what is it, North Country to...
No, it's actually our consultant, Martin, who was here a couple of times.
So we're going to do that discussion in 2 weeks?
I'll put it this way. You've reviewed this document, okay?
Well, I did a thorough review of the ecological section.
And what I'm...
the first 2 bits of the transportation section.
I would like to go through on a page turn, if people are willing to do that, to get any comments or things that we would change, or just general. But if we got specifics, let's write them down. Now, on the comments that you have on ecological, if there are comments or questions on it, let's raise them now and put it on, we may not have answers now, but we'll have answers in 2 weeks. So let's not lose them. Let's do it now rather than bring it up in 2 weeks or save them for 2 weeks.
Sure, then we can turn around and make sure Spider knows that and he can incorporate it into his response.
Yeah, so are you comfortable on doing that, board?
So we're
So we're doing the ecology now.
We're gonna we're just gonna do a page turner on the documents now. All right. We'll see how it goes for first couple pages. If people are in tune with it, we'll continue on. If they have a better way of doing it, we'll go from there. I will point out. Okay, I'm starting on. I guess I'm on I, and then, well, first page, second page is double I. Paragraph on 1A, 1 little a. Comments not addressed, not in scope. We're gonna rewrite that. I don't like the tone of it at all. So, I'll let the board read it over, but from my point of view, it needs to be written.
Yeah, I had a question about, I guess it's page 22.
No fans getting that far ahead. Is it 22? We're up? Well, don't just let me.
It starts on page 21.
I know. Let me go through anything else on any other page in that in the format. I will believe that again, it's a planning board document in sections where you have the project sponsor says it's gone out the window. It will not be the project sponsor saying it.
Just to keep that in mind, when you're looking at the DIS in sections that are incorporated by reference, that is something which the project sponsor did submit. It's written in that voice.
Yes.
So you need to be attentive.
There will be, in other words, there'll be sometimes when the project sponsor is the proper word to have in there. But being that it's a planning board document, it will be the planning board's voice. Okay.
And will it be clear as we go? Because as I was reading the transportation thing, I noticed that quite a few of the answers were actual changes that seemed to have been made in response to discussions we had had, and may not have actually reflected what had been in the DEIS since we were discussing things. I noticed just in some places I didn't find reading it where the original stuff had been in the DEIS, and I remembered a lot of things that were adapted as we moved forward, and so I would have a trouble looking at what's the responses that are in italics in identifying exactly what has changed and what hasn't as a result of the discussions we've been having. And I do appreciate that a lot of things really have changed in our ongoing discussions.
I think
in response to points that people have brought up, and yet if this is going to become a static document on which other things are based, I just
let's go, when we get there, let's pick out those
Okay.
pieces and say, okay, this is different than that, well, what was it before? And it may be a one sentence that this was the way it was set up before or something to that effect. But let's pick on that when we get there, okay?
Yeah, sure. But I'm just wondering if this is an ongoing thing, the things that have been changed as part of our discussions, or the things that don't need to be changed because they were there in the DEIS to begin with and are still there because they're still
Sure,
relevant
there are instances of both of those,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah, well, we, obviously, if this says, as a result, we've changed this, then it's changed it from what? Is basically what you're saying, and what? Okay, well, let's move along, and one question I had, just for edification or for help, is the FEIS is gonna have a lot of sections and a lot of appendices and a lot of attachments and things of that sort. The DEIS had a lot of appendices and attachments and things.